Welcome to the Honest TV podcast, with the podcast for health professionals and the wider community looking to explore diversities in health, ask some hard questions, and have some honest conversations. My name is Archie. I'm an EP based on Sydney's Northern Beaches, and joining me as always is allied health business owner Andrew. Andrew, how are you?
I'm very well. I'm drinking my half-warm beer out of a glass, and it's
Great.
excellent.
What half-warm beer out of a glass are you drinking?
Well, it was a half-warm beer that, and you asked the question just as we were jumping on about does beer go off? Because this beer has been sitting since our last team retreat in a box in
September,
the
October?
office. Yeah, I think so. August, September. So it's been a good 9 months, 10 months.
Yep. That sounds fine.
It sounds fine, and it's a 150 lashes, a James Squire 150 lashes.
They never go off. In saying that,
Prove me wrong.
I've just had a sip. It definitely tastes like 150 lashes. I'm just going to convince my brain that this is what it always tastes like. And then we won't have any issues with it.
You're resetting that normal level.
That's it. You know what, I was just talking to one of our EPs last week who's doing a knowledge exchange course, which is they run courses on pain neuroscience and musculoskeletal rehab for basically anyone in physical therapy. So EPs, physios, osteos, yada, yada. Really good courses. Their main one at the moment is they do online ones. They used to do a lot of in-person ones. They do less of those now because they're busy people, and committing weekends to courses is tougher for sure. But they have really good quality, well-edited online courses. And I was talking to one of our EPs about it. And one of the things was prediction error, like talking about predictive processing in the brain and how the brain basically tries to fill in the gaps of any information it's missing to create a full picture for the person. And that's really important because if we were to process everything and assess every bit of data minutely and accurately as it came into our senses, we would move so slowly and we would make decisions so slowly as humans that and it would take up way too much energy as well, because our brain already uses a lot of energy. But if we had to consciously do everything, decide everything, it would be way too hard. So as a result, our brain predicts things based off previous experience, regular patterns, basically pattern generation stuff. So they were looking at a study, there was a research study done on, correct me if my pronunciation here is wrong, but sommeliers, the wine people, people who taste wines. And what they did in this study was they got a bunch of really good, well-respected sommeliers, and they got them to they told them that what they wanted was to have a bunch of these wines out for them and for them to basically do what they do, like predict the notes, tell us what it tastes like, and tell us what their prediction of what kind of wine it was. So, hey, this is a red wine. What red wine is it? Is it a Shiraz? Is it a Cab Merlot? Blah, 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 all these things. So they went through all these whites and then went through all of these reds. And then what they'd actually done was the red wines, they had actually just used white wine, but put red food dye in it to make it look red. But all of these expert sommeliers gave those white wines red grape variations with notes of chocolate and cherry and oak and all of these things.
Oh,
And they were pissed off.
you just
They were so
destroyed
unhappy.
somebody's profession.
They just
Yep.
destroyed their careers. But with the point being that the brain basically went, well, it's a red wine. I can see that already. So we'll start from there, and then I'll start working out everything from that point on. Because we know that's true. So then we won't even bother like looking for these different tastes or these sorts of experiences. Really, it's like, no, it's red. So it's going to be these things. And they fucked with people's brains.
Yes, they do.
Which is great. So So
how that relates to beer is
So I am going to convince myself.
Oh,
Uh,
that's where it came
yeah,
from.
I'm
Yep,
going to
very good.
convince. It's a very long anecdote, but an interesting research one. That I'm going to convince myself that this beer, this 150 lashes, I bought last week from the store, and it's great.
Fantastic.
Therefore, this is what a nice in-date 150 lashes tastes like. Delicious.
And it's warm.
Yeah. Yeah,
Fantastic.
I can't convince my brain that it's cold, unfortunately.
That would be good. That'd be
That's it.
impressive.
That would be great. That would be very good. Oh, I could go into another neuroscience study, but we don't need to do that. No, I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more. There was another prediction on predictive processing. Here you go, guys. This is now a pain neuroscience podcast, not what we're actually talking about today at
I'll
all.
leave because I've got nothing to add here.
Yeah, let me just keep talking at you while I do this. So they got people to participate in this pain study. And first off, who puts their hand up to go, yes, I'd like to be part of a pain study? What kind of
A
psychos do
special
that?
person.
Special person goes, yeah, sign me up to a study where they're going to experiment on pain. So they got these people to put their hand in a box, like a box where they can't see it. And then what they could see was a panel that showed two colors of lights. And it showed a blue light and it showed a red light. Then what they got was they got a very, very cold bit of metal, almost like an ice cube kind of thing. And then they touched it to people's skin and showed them a light at the same time. And what they found with, on the average, is that when they showed people the red light and touched people with that cold bit of metal, they sensed heat and burning.
Interesting.
And then when they showed them the blue light and then touched them with it, they sensed cold and freezing.
Why?
Well, because the body and the brain couldn't actually determine what the substance was. So it had to work off whatever information it had. And when humans see red, we think of heat. And so when you think of heat, or when we see red and think of heat, and then we get touched with something that is an extreme temperature, our body has to take the extreme heat from our thermomechanoreceptors or whatever, the nociceptors, and then the color red and go, what is the most likely situation here? And it's like, well, it's most likely that this is heat and I'm getting burnt.
Mm.
So I need to pull my hand away.
Interesting.
And when you see blue, you think of cold and ice and water.
Mm.
And so then you get touched by something and you're thinking of that. You go, well, that's cold.
Mm.
Less dangerous.
Less dangerous. Very interesting.
It's the same thing when we look at any drug ad for any painkiller ever. When when some drug company is trying to sell us an anti-inflammatory for joint pain, what color does the joint glow?
Red.
Yeah, pain, red.
Pain is red.
Dangerous. And then when they get healed, they normally get shown one of two colors, which is what?
Blue.
Yeah, blue or green, because
Green.
blue or green is nice, healing, healthy.
Mm.
There's no fucking... the whole body's red on the inside. Healthy tissue's red.
Mm.
Dead tissue is blue.
Mm. Mm.
Blue means vascular problems.
That's a real problem.
But our brains go red, dangerous, hot, burning, fire, throbbing, headache, red nose, must have cold, which, I guess for the nose is correct. But, this is just how the body works.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Anyway, that's the end of the podcast.
I've learned something. How wonderful.
Yeah, we're not supposed to learn things this early in the podcast. That's not the point. I apologize. I apologize in advance for any unintentional pain neuroscience or
Unintentional learning.
research that you received.
It wasn't our
I need
intention.
to put a disclaimer at the start of the episodes.
You may learn something.
You may accidentally learn something nothing to do with the topic of the name of the podcast.
Yeah. I think to be fair, that's probably our whole podcast. because
Well, yeah,
we
that's
spend
true.
all of
Yeah.
5 minutes
Yeah.
preparing for it, and
Yeah.
then we
Yeah.
just start
Don't
talking.
don't click on it necessarily thinking that it's going to be about the topic that's
No.
said there.
If we had some person trying to like create thumbnails for what it is that this episode is, like
Oh,
you'd have a list.
good
It'll be
luck.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyway, this topic is actually, or this podcast is actually about tips for starting in private practice as a new grad specifically. And the reason that we want to talk about this today is we've both been in contact or had experience recently with a lot of new grads through our own work, but you also mentor other business owners who deal with new people starting private practice. Um, my wife works in an allied health clinic as well, and they have new grads and new people practice. So we hear a lot of people. We have students here. We run like a large student program called Elevate as well. So there's lots of ways that we are in contact with that. And the last time we really talked about tips for starting private practice was 5 years ago. So the people who would have listened to that are now 5 year practitioners, although 20% of them are probably still doing their jobs, and the other 80% probably in rehab consulting now.
Oh, it's a sad truth. Yeah.
As the stats go, we'll still be here
Yeah.
after 5 years. So thank you to those 1 in 5 people who perhaps listened to that and are still practicing. Good on you.
Well done,
Well
you.
done. You're succeeding.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Andrew, uh, tell us recently things that you've noticed about or stories you've had from new grads or people starting private practice when you're like, this would be a good thing to recover and give some tips for.
Mm. I think there's a few things going on all at the same time at the moment. I think certainly from a business owner perspective, like if you think back 5 years' time, what was going on 5 years' time, um, it wasn't, I mean, growing a business is never easy, but the ability to grow a business felt a lot easier 5 years ago. Um, the NDIS was going great guns and everybody was sort of jumping on that boat. Um, there wasn't a lot of EP businesses out there. So,
Mm,
the ability to build caseloads was more like just a if you do the work, it will come kind of thing.
mm,
Um, and what's happened recently is with in the upcoming changes to the award, with the NDIS taking EP rates backwards instead of
mm,
even static, a lot of conversations that I'm having with business owners now are like, we have higher expectations of our new grads, and there is less of that kind of lead in time, or the first few months of nurturing and shadowing and essentially like non face to face or non billable time, because if we're taking the financial risk of employing somebody, well, we kind of need to get them to at least break even much faster than they were
mm,
before.
mm,
Um, and I think that's true. I know that that is true of what we do, but and I think this is probably one of the points of conversation tonight is that sometimes those expectations aren't communicated effectively or clearly to new grads that have come in and this is their first job.
mm,
So either they don't know what the expectations are, or the expectations haven't been transparently described to them.
mm,
So there is this mismatch between what a employer thinks somebody can do versus what the team member has in their mind, what they've signed up to do. And so we've kind of got this sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes this mismatch in expectations.
mm,
I worked with someone recently who had that exact same thing. Um, the the example was that this person was they hired somebody and thought that they use social media as a tool to be able to generate patients for their clinic, um, and assumed that the team member would be on board with that decision, and be willing to kind of put themselves out there. But when they actually came aboard and when they sort of like, okay, let's book some time into your diary to get you in front of the camera, it was just a big, hard no
Mm.
from that team member. And coaching them through that was like, well, how clear were you with your expectation? Did that team member know as you were going through your recruitment process that that was going to be part of their role? And for the team member, like what was actually going on in their mind and what was the big barrier to them do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so like that's just one example of many, but where expectations weren't sort of super clear from the outset.
Right. So in this podcast today, we're talking about from the point of the new person starting in private practice. So a first lesson coming out of that is before you start and before you sign your contract and look at your position description and understand what the expectations they are putting down on paper that you are signing on for.
Mm.
So
Because
as
in this example, it was actually in the position description.
mm,
It was written into the position description that they would be involved in social media creation to generate clients. And so then when the employer kind of turned around and like, well, hey, like, did you know that this is in your PD? The team member was like, well, no, because I didn't read it properly.
mm,
And I think if you try and take a bit of a uh, I think the opportunity from that, if you're trying to take more of a, you know, what could we do differently next time to make sure that everybody's on the same page, would actually be to sit and walk the person through line by line what the position description actually is so that we are clear with our expectations. And if they had objections, then they could object before they sign a contract.
absolutely. Yeah. I have a story from this year, not an EP, but a chiro that I know who had this issue from the other side, from their side of things, where they signed on as an employee to this clinic expecting, and had been promised you'll get regular mentoring and support to help build and continue your professional development, which is a constant thing that comes up for new grads. Is when they join jobs, they want mentoring and they want supervision and they want further learning and development and they want support in that. And they were like, great, that's awesome. So signed, and then over their first 6 months, they had two one-on-one mentoring sessions because it just got rescheduled because their supervisors were busy and there were other things that were a priority to them as opposed to mentoring this person. And then when they went back to the contract, there was nothing in there that said you will receive weekly mentoring for this period of time. It wasn't in there at all. It was just a promise. So from a new grad's point of view, if the company you're talking to or if the employer is promising you these things, make sure they're written down and in your contract.
Well, because every job ad that you see on Seek or on Deed, every single one will say mentoring, supervision, team meetings,
CPD allowance.
CPD, like every single one of them would say that.
So you have to now, otherwise people don't even click on it, right?
Not a chance, and nor should they.
Hmm.
But what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
Like, is it one session every 6 months? Is
Mm.
it once a month? Is it weekly? Is it fortnightly? Does it change depending on my level? How is it an hour? Is it 45 minutes? Is it 30? Who is it run by? Like, these are considering, hopefully we're speaking to lots of new grads here, like these are legitimate questions to ask.
Yep.
And I'm sure you've probably got some more insights in this that I have, but like these are questions that people should be asking in their interviews about like, well, what exactly does professional development, what exactly does support look like
Yeah,
here?
absolutely.
To what degree, and we might get into this more a bit later, like to what degree am I responsible for building my own caseload versus the business supplying me clients? Like
Great
these are
question.
all very legitimate questions
Yeah.
to ask.
Yeah. Even from a starting point, this is a tip for people. When you are interviewing at a job and you've read the job ad that went out, break that down because people will talk, businesses will talk themselves up. They'll talk that they are the shit. They are the
We're
best.
we're competing, right? We
Where
we want the
exactly,
we want the best candidates, and so
exactly. Yeah.
we will
So
Claude
fact check
and
us. Yeah,
ChatGPT, and we will.
absolutely. Yeah. So from a starting point, fact check everything in that job ad. It's like you've mentioned that there is uh, an induction for new team when they bring people on. What does that look like? How long does that go for? Who is that with? You mentioned that there's a CPD allowance. How does that work?
Is
Is it
like because and just to double down on that point, because a CPD allowance could work like, you just get given a certain amount of money, and that is written into your contract, and how you use
right?
that, and that is part of your package. So
Right.
you
Yeah.
then
It's
just
just
go
in your
and
salary.
it's in
Yeah.
your salary, right? So
Mm.
other people, it's like we used to have it like a dollar for dollar CPD, where if a course cost $100, we would pay 50 and you would pay 50. Um, Others, it's just we will cover the full cost of it
Mm.
and you're not out of pocket. Others, if you leave within a certain time, we'll
Mm.
ask you to repay the amount. So if you leave within, say, 12 months, then any CPD allowance you used gets repaid to the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
And that's more common than you think it is,
Mm.
but it will be in the contract.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so, to your point, it's about asking how do these things actually work? Because
Mm.
they can work different ways for
Mm.
different businesses.
For contractors or people on commission models, when people have retainers at the start of their career, sometimes written into contracts is people have to repay uh, part of that retainer once they start out earning it. It's
A
like
lot
you need
of
to read this stuff.
psych clinics, like psych practices, um, they would, some of them would consider your induction, there is a dollar cost to
Mm.
your induction. And so if you leave before a certain point, then you actually have to repay the cost of induction
Mm.
because that was a direct overhead to the business.
Mm. Mm.
More
And
common
that,
in more common in psych practices, but
sure.
it can still apply.
Yeah. Yeah. And that would be in a contract.
It would
So,
You could only enforce it if it was in a contract.
exactly. So, the same with all of these promises. Make sure that if they have promised you things, make sure that they are in the contract. And if they're not, ask for them to be.
Hmm.
Another one that comes up a lot and is a great question to ask a business because businesses will put in their job ad, it's like, oh, we value culture and team culture above everything. We're a very close team. Ask them about that. It's like, how do you live out your team culture? Or how does it actually present day to day? It's like, what does it mean to you guys that you are a values driven business? Because that's what you put on your job ad.
Well, I mean, different businesses have got different values.
Yeah, so if that's in the job ad, you need to ask these questions beforehand so you actually know what you're walking into
Mm.
because it could just be something that they put in the job ad but it's actually not actually relevant to the business whatsoever.
Mm.
And you'll be able to tell that from the answer that they give you. If they really don't care about their answer and they kind of wave it off and go, it's just kind of something we put on the wall. It's like, okay, that I'm not going to take that bit too seriously then because they clearly don't take it very seriously, and that's fine. But
Mm,
just know, like, you've got to ask those questions.
correct. Yep. And I appreciate, and we might repeat this message a couple of times, but it might feel awkward to ask these questions, but you absolutely can. You don't want to
And
take a job until you're certain.
yeah, and on that point, don't feel awkward about asking hard hitting questions to someone who's interviewing you because part of my interview process is to ask people what questions they have for me. And if they ask me shit questions, I am taking that into account that they don't have good questions for me. If they are asking hard hitting questions that show that they have thought about it and care about the place they work and care about the place that they're going to be for 5 days a week, I'm going to go, okay, this person has actually done their research and they care.
So what are some of the best questions that you've answered in interviews? Like,
So people,
are they
yeah,
around professional development? Are they around culture? Like, what are some of the things that come to mind?
I really like questions when people ask me personally. It's like, why do I like coming to work?
Mm,
And then often there's two people in interview rooms. Like, why do you like coming to work? It's like, you guys mentioned team culture is important to you. What does that look like in practice?
mm,
It's like, oh, I need to think about that,
mm.
and you'll be able to tell what uh, tell based on people's answer to it, what kind of business they are. But I'm also going, all right, culture is important to this person, uh, and this person wants to know, clearly wants to love their job and not just coming here because it's, just going to go because I need a job and I've got to see patients. So I'm not looking for someone like that. So they shouldn't expect that from me either.
Mm.
Um, ask about these details about someone's induction. Ask about if someone asks me, uh, what would me succeeding in my first year look like?
That is a cracking question.
It's a great question. What would it look like for me to exceed expectations in my first year? Okay, wow, good. Because then you are really finding out, okay, what is this person's expectations of me
Mm.
straight away? And then you'll know pretty quickly whether this is a place that you would actually like to work. Because if they're like, my expectations for you are either too high for what you are looking for, or my expectations for a new grad are too low for what you're looking for, that's good information for you.
So what would too high expectations look like let's just assume like new grad, this is
Yeah.
their first job in the industry.
Yeah.
What would a too high expectation look like?
So flags for me, if I was a new grad, would be hitting what you know to be an unrealistic utilization, or for me as a new grad would be having a great onus in building my own caseload
Mm,
without having any experience seeing patients before
mm,
or clients before. Uh, being out and doing lots of referral work and networking because we know that new grads doing referral work and networking isn't the most effective thing in the world. And it's more so because
what do you mean?
people, well, generally speaking, and this is absolutely generally speaking, uh, I think that in people's first year, the main goal of them working and doing well in their first year should be their clinical skills developing a lot. And I want them to feel confident in what they're doing. And I want them to feel confident seeing most cases that come through the door with initials. I want them to be getting like good clinical outcomes. I want them to be getting good feedback from their clients. And I want them to be getting good feedback from the team as well in terms of them being a person with a good development growth mindset. like
So
showing some hunger as well.
in what situations would you feel that expectation is placed on new grads? Like, what would need to be true for a business to expect a new grad to go and build their own caseload?
What would need to be true in terms of what they would answer to that question?
What would a business owner answer to the question of, I expect my new grads to go and build their own caseload?
Yep, that.
Because
You'll have complete autonomy. Uh, you'll have the freedom to go and build your own caseload and to go and do your own networking. That to me, that sounds like your manager is just going to stand back and not get involved.
it also tells me that they don't have the clients.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
They don't have the clients. They're banking on you to go and
Mm.
generate it,
Yeah, exactly.
which for a new grad, when you're trying to learn how to be a allied health professional,
Mm.
I think to your point, I feel like that should be the priority.
Yeah.
And that might be a reasonable expectation for somebody who's got 3 to 5 years of experience.
Mm.
But it tells me that if they try and dress it up that way, that they actually don't have the clients for you to see,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
which
right.
is a tough thing if you don't deliver on it.
For sure. Yeah. And once again, if you can look past that and you're like, oh, it's orange flag, but everything else is great, is that stuff actually in the contract in terms of what's in your probation period, like requirements or expectations? What's in your position description in terms of utilization or number of clients or yada, 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 or networking efforts or building this stuff? Like, is it actually written down in there? That's good to know. On the other side of things, so what would be real low expectations? Because, another thing as a new grad is you don't want to come in and then not see anyone for 12 months and then actually feel like you're going backwards in terms of your clinical skills because you're so quiet. You know what? There's definitely a balance there.
Mm.
So if you ask, like, uh, what would be a utilization expectation of me to have done well in my first year? And they go, it's like, oh, maybe seeing 10 hours a week would be reasonable in your first year. That's too low.
Mm.
I mean, for me, like if I'm a new grad, I'm waving a red flag at that one because they're like, wow, they're really not expecting me to see more than 10 hours a week. It's like they're expecting me to be,
You're
you
not
know,
you're not getting enough experience.
exactly.
There's
Yeah,
nothing to reflect on. Like,
exactly. It's
yeah.
EP is one thing, but say you're in a hands-on profession like chiro or physio, if you are not actually getting your hands on people and practicing your assessments and practicing your treatment modalities, uh, that's tough.
Mm.
You are actually going to lose confidence in what you do.
Mm.
You're not going to know what bodies feel like, especially if you've gone from uni where you're practicing on each other all the time, and then you go into the workforce and you're barely, you might be seeing 2 people a day, 3 people a day. Fuck,
Mm.
it's tough going.
Mm.
And then in answer to that, it's like, what would I be doing with the rest of my time? Or what would be an expectation of me to do with the other 30 hours of my week? And if they have like a huge amount of things that's actually helpful, it's like, okay, maybe it's an orange flag instead of a red flag. But
Mm.
if they're like, oh, it'll just come, it just takes longer. And, in your second and third year, we'd expect that to build up, but it just doesn't happen in your first year. Like, okay, so they actually don't have a plan or ideas of how I can move that along faster.
Mm.
Right. Ask this shit.
Mm.
Absolutely ask it. So, same thing with mentoring. I'd be asking, so you've written down that there's mentoring involved. What does that look like in practice?
Who's it with?
Who's the mentoring with? Yeah. Is it structured or is it informal? Because people might write down mentoring and go, oh, it's actually more informal. Like when we cross over in the office, we can chat.
Mm.
So when we have time, we'll just book in a one-on-one. Because if they say it's like, oh, it's more informal, it's just when we have time, we'll book one in, and you're supposed to be getting that from the clinic owner or director, I'd be nervous about that
Mm.
because clinic owners and directors don't typically have lots of spare time to book things in their diary. They're normally reasonably busy people, especially if they are hiring someone new,
Mm.
especially if they're doing that.
Mm.
Because they're generally, if they're a smaller business, um, they're hiring someone because they are growing and they have enough business to at least think about bringing on someone else. But they probably likely have a full caseload themselves. And they're probably very good clinicians. So they've probably got a lot of new clients coming in as well. So spare spots in their diaries generally don't stay. Slash, when they do have spare spots in their diary, they're doing all the other tasks that are required from a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're saying informal mentoring, orange flag for me. If that's something that I want.
Yeah. And I think yeah, there might be ways around that, but it's good to understand what the expectations or what is going to be delivered on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then same thing with the CPD allowance, asking specifics of how it works. Things to ask is like, is that straight up or is that included in my salary package? Is that dollar for dollar on top? Is that, does the company cover all of that? Like find out those answers because you're right. It can be a bunch of different things. And they could write generous CPD allowance.
Generous.
But generous CPD allowance could just be 2K built into your salary package that you don't actually realize. You think, fuck yeah, I'm getting paid decently above the award for a new grad. And then you think there's going to be a generous CPD on top of it. It's like, no, that's what it is. It's there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. Good to know. So there you go. Those are my tips. So ask good questions in your interview and do that from a point of view of that is the interviewer is going to judge you based on the quality of questions that you ask. You need to be identifying green, orange, and red flags of the business that you are interviewing for. And then any promises or things that are said in the interview process or in the application process or on the job ad, make sure that they are in the position description and in your contract if you're expecting them to be there. Andrew, what are your last tips?
I think you said it really well. And I just reflecting back on where we started this conversation, I think as opposed to when we first had this conversation 5 years ago, employers are expecting more of new grads. And that is more just a reflection of the times that we're in right now. Changes in the award times two, changes in funding rates, increased competition. And so if employers have got more expectations of you, you should have more expectations of them. That is a two-way conversation. It is not a one-way conversation. And the employers that end up with you working for them should deserve that. Like you have a strong position, you have a strong bargaining chip, and it's important to get clarity on these things before you sign a contract, rather than when you're having your probation review conversation. And it's like, well, that wasn't explained to me, and that wasn't explained to me, and I don't know what that thing is. And you're showing me a document that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
It's better to do your due diligence, because I think the standard of the industry has risen. Like as an industry, we are expecting more. but you need to be very clear on what those expectations are.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the biggest lesson is people realize in hindsight. So you don't want to be the person to get 3 to 6 months into a job, then realizing that all of this stuff that you didn't like about it or wasn't expecting, there were signs of it earlier that you could have found out if you asked good questions and you read and went through with a fine-tooth comb and ensured that. So knowledge is power here. You have to know this stuff beforehand, and it's easy to go, well, that's their fault. But if you know this stuff beforehand, then it's actually on you, and you can change that, and you can make sure that you don't end up in most situations. You don't end up in that situation in the first place because you'll have asked those questions and checked those details beforehand.
Correct.
There you go. All of this is a lot easier to do as well if you are a very good candidate, an applicant for the job as well, because you'll actually have more choice of the job that you get offered from multiple clinics. And you will get to look at more contracts and position descriptions, because you actually don't get to look at contracts and position descriptions if you don't get offered a job.
It happens. It's generally the last step in the process.
It's the step after the business has decided that they would like to offer you a job. So part of that is make sure that you interview really well. And you can refer to some of our other podcasts on how to do that, but we will definitely do a rehash of that in a separate podcast as well, of how to actually interview and be a really good applicant for a job. But some of it comes down to asking those good questions in your interviews right now, because people actually take that into account, asking good questions. If 100%. You have no good questions for me, that is the minus point for you, because it shows you don't care.
It shows you haven't prepared.
Shows you haven't prepared, and it shows you don't really care that much to me. Because if you're going, it's like, oh no, sweet, this all sounds great, I don't need to know anything about you. It's like, you don't care about your future. It's like you're about to, so if I offered you a job and you just signed it, it's like you are just going to be happy no matter what for the next 2 to 5 years without even questioning me on anything. That's interesting. I'd want to know heaps.
Yeah.
I'm about to go spend fucking 5 days of my week at this place. I want to know that it's not going to be horrible.
Correct.
Like we do that much before we do anything else. Before we buy a car, or we, book a place on Airbnb or go to a restaurant or something, people generally look at reviews and look at all this stuff and, look for feedback. Got to do it before you get a job as well.
Correct. 100%.
Oh dear. How was your fresh beer, Andrew?
Yeah, there's a significant amount of sediment at the bottom of my cup. So I'm going to take your advice and I'm going to pretend that doesn't exist.
No, it
was a great beer.
That's something I've heard about really fresh lashes when they're fresh out of the factory, is they've actually got more sediment.
More?
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
So the more sediment in a new 150 lashes, the better.
The better.
That's it. It shows it's real fresh, real ready, absolute organic 150 lashes.
Great to know, because I've just had a really good one then.
Yeah, that's it. It's as good as it gets. Doesn't get any better than that.
Oh, dear.
Alrighty. Well, that'll do us for today. Thanks for listening, and we'll hopefully see you soon.
Goodbye.
Bye.